Netgear is a newer category for us, right? But I'm glad we were able to get this relationship with Netgear and up and rolling. And as far as, I'll put on my sales hat here for a minute. So the Netgear product purchased through the NICE dealer portal, as you guys do know. If you don't, you will after I go over this. Counts towards your program. So you're not, it basically counts to hit you to the next levels for your VIR as well as your dealer status, your dealer tier. So there's benefits through buying it through the NICE portal as well. And we're excited to kind of do a little bit of a review of the SKUs that we're carrying as well as some of the new SKUs that we're going to be bringing in. Had some feedback from you guys as some parts and pieces that you guys would like to have to kind of make this whole line complete. And we'll be going through that. So again, we talked about how we're going to be taking some breaks in between sections to curate the questions. Go ahead and throw them in the Q&A tab up top. And then lastly, with all our webinars, recording will be posted on this. It'll be posted on Management Cloud. Probably a couple days after. It gives us a chance to kind of scrub it out and edit it before we post it. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Mr. Cramp, and we'll get this ball rolling.
Oh, well, hello, everybody, and thank you for taking some time out of your day and joining the three of us to go over some of the Netgear things we're going to talk about today. The first thing that we want to talk about is some of the benefits that we get with the Netgear line. So the first thing that Fred and I were talking and he wanted to bring up is large enough to matter, small enough to care. So that's something that Fred wanted to talk about Netgear itself. So over to Fred.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining today. So when we say that we're large enough to matter, what we mean by that is that we are an organization that's able to help people keep up with the latest and greatest in technology. We've seen some of our competitors in the space have been, maybe a little bit slower to be able to adopt newer Wi-Fi standards or things of that nature. So when we say large enough to matter, what we really mean is being able to keep you up to date with everything, as well as, being able to manufacture enough items to keep up with demand. But you'll see plenty of times that when we say small enough to care, we're really dedicated to the AV industry as a whole, and especially in the residential space. It's been a fantastic space for us to be able to grow and get some products out there that people haven't had access to in the past, as well as making sure they have the right tools for the future. And something that, as you're talking to your customers, Netgear might be the only name they know. Depending on, how prolific they are within the AV industry, I know as I've been introduced to a lot of brands, I didn't know any of them prior to getting involved with this, but I've known the name Netgear for decades. So it's a way of being able to help give at least one brand that customers recognize.
Oh, that's awesome. So the next one is just want to let everybody know we partnered with Netgear in 2024. We feel like this relationship between us and Netgear is good for everybody. And especially the dealers and the end users. So that's why, and I think Jeff Kaplinski hit this when he was talking before, and why we did this and when we did this. So that was just in case anybody doesn't know, we did partner together officially in 2024, going on a year now. Just over a year, actually. The other thing about the Netgear products is it's a total networking solution with what they offer, not just the AV line, which is specifically what we carry, but the entry-level Wi-Fi routers and all that accoutrement. So I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, Fred.
Just, one place to go for all of the networking infrastructure that you'll need for that job, both for AV over IP and for just general data networking.
Yep,
we hope to help you with it all.
And some of the tools they have are very good. Netgear uses Insight and Engage. The combination of those two tools we'll go over these in detail, but having these two tools will, what the dealers use to actually set up, configure, and monitor the networks that you deploy in the field. So it's nice to have these tools that you guys are aware of some other tools that the competitors have. So they're right in line with those. But the other thing about Netgear is that they offer reliable products, affordable, and they're easy to use and deploy. And we're going to cover a bunch of things about this in the future slides. But that's also very important, especially as a dealer. You need to be able to have a reliable product that you go out to the market with. One other thing is that when Netgear, when they are quick to adopt new technologies such as Wi-Fi 7 and multi-gig. I didn't even like looking at some of the things they do with 2.5 gig over copper. They've been doing that for a long time, and I thought that was really cool. Anything on those, Fred?
Yeah, just when we talk about small enough to care and being dedicated to the industry, so we've had Insight now for around 6 or 7 years as a cloud management platform. And while it does a good job for a lot of the things that we need for data networking, we noticed that for what the AV market needed, it really needed something a little bit different. And so Insight is pretty well established, and we'll be talking about how that comes into play. But Engage will be a platform that I think, especially over time, will be kind of the de facto platform for anything you're doing networking, whether it's AV or IT. So we'll see a nice blending of everything that this industry really needs brought to bear there. So,
awesome. All right. So one thing we did when we launched this product is we did reskew the products from Netgear's to our own version of the SKU. We did that for two reasons, basically to help bolster the dealer margin, but also to prevent people from shopping. So helping the SKUs be protected. So we did that. And since this is going to be going live when we record it and scrub it and post it, you can kind of see how the SKUs are formed, what they mean. So you can kind of know when we say NG-SW-24AV-RPX, what do those mean? And that can give you a good, clear understanding of what product that is if you understand what the SKU rationalization was and why we did this. We did it to help the dealers. All right. So one of the things that we really liked was the AV line, and Netgear has done a great job with this product. Of course, when you're a dealer, having the rear ports is kind of essential. The cool thing is that this could be mounted either way. You could flip it if you want to. These also have a higher budget PoE, which is helpful. A lot of the stuff in the AV line uses PoE, so having that is a higher budget for cameras and things like that. And most things are going to PoE now, so it's having that is really nice. But the ultra low noise, that's pretty nice. But these have the temperature controlled fans that allow for quieter operation. So generically out of the box, these AV line switches, they're set to go to the quietest performance without overheating. But there is options that you can override that within the switch. IGMP Plus, doing a lot of things with large packets and multiple packet structures. The IGM Plus is an easier way, a safer way to do that. And again, Fred's going to go over that more in detail when he gets to the technical section. But the next part is the part that I really like, and that's the profiles. So, our products work a certain way. A lot of manufacturers' products work a certain way. And having a relationship with the manufacturer of the networking side, what they've done is they've built profiles, and we'll talk about ours soon. But the profiles allow you to be able to pick a profile, and it does all the settings behind the scenes, which allows for a quick configuration. So that's why these switches are great. But they also have a lifetime warranty. So that is, I think, a huge thing. And then the free design services, which I think Fred is going to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we've got a whole slide on design services.
We do.
But yeah, we want you to feel comfortable, going into any project that you've got the right solution that meets what the needs of that particular project are.
Anything else you want to add about the AV line that I didn't touch on?
I think you hit on everything that's going to come up, and we'll be showing some of those in slides to come as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, these switches were made specifically for the AV market. they came after a time that we had already been getting involved with the AV over IP industry and saw some of the things that they needed. Some of these were recommendations from integrators. Some of them were just things that as we looked at the industry, we thought, oh, hey, this would help out here. So these are all things that were tailored specifically for you guys in mind.
Awesome. So one of the things I think is important is having good training for the networking side. I feel like that's a strong thing that most, even myself, can use, is always more training on the networking side. The academy, the Netgear Academy is great, and they just expanded it, and now you have multiple levels of this, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The main purpose was to make sure anybody who is CTS certified could get some free Avixa credits to help out with their renewals. But yeah, they've developed an entire level 1 and level 2 AV curriculum to make sure that you can go to the depth that you would like to. And they're going to be introducing a level 3 later this year to go even deeper technically. And then even on the insight side with some of the products that are not necessarily made specifically with AV in mind, we see a pretty robust catalog there. And Engage will be getting its own trainings as well. So,
yeah, that stuff's really good and important. And, it's good to have that as a resource. So, sometimes you might not always be doing VLANing, but when you do, there's that module that you could just refer to as a quick 5-minute refresher. So I found that really helpful myself. So in a lot of support stuff, one of the cool things about the AV line stuff is there's a pro Wi-Fi design team. So if you want to talk through this, Fred?
Yeah. So we all know that good planning leads to good results, and better planning leads to better results. And so what we have here are 2 different ways that we can help you design a wireless network. And then with AV systems, I forget if we have another slide about that. But with Wi-Fi in particular, what we want to do is make sure that you have access points in all the right places, because nothing is worse than getting somewhere in the house and realizing there's a dead spot, and you never figure that out usually until you've already sat down, made yourself comfortable. So we have 2 different things you can do. You can either email prowifidesign@netgear.com and send over. You'll see at the very bottom, you'll want to make sure you include floor plans or blueprints. They do need to be dimensionally accurate, meaning please no bar napkins. But what we do is, you tell us what the walls are made out of, how tall the ceilings are, what the measurement on the scale of the document is, so that when we put it into, so that team uses a software called Ekahau, which is kind of the top name in Wi-Fi network planning. And they can do one of 2 things. They can either, for new construction, they can tell you where they would recommend placing access points. And if you have a system that maybe you're taking over or you're updating it, you can let us know where the access points are, and we'll be able to see what the broadcast will look like in that space and show any potential dead spots or areas of oversaturation. So if you do need to make some tweaks to the system, we can help you do that even if you've never been on site. And you'll also see a link for self-design. So we've also recently partnered with a company called Yagna, and that's the link that you see there. And you can actually go and create a free login. And then if you would like to do your own planning, Yagna has a tool that has been extremely proficient and good to use. And you'll be able to do your own planning if you wanted to do it yourself too. So either way, you've got no reason to not do a good network plan and design. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about the AV design systems as well. But even if you have AV systems, that was actually AV design came before Wi-Fi design did, and it helped with a decrease in so many support cases that we realized it was better to expand that out to Wi-Fi as well. So that's where Pro Wi-Fi came from.
And one other thing too, on the NICE sales portal, if you go to networking, there's this green button that says network design and support, and then you get those options. So you can go do it and submit these plans. You can submit for support right through the nice sales portal. So that's available.
Mhm.
And this is what you'll receive back after a plan is designed for Wi-Fi. Is that what this is?
Correct. Yeah. So what you'll see
Yeah.
there is the same floor plan, and you'll get a whole report showing a variety of things. So the one on the left you can see shows the placement of access points without really trying to intrude too much on the rest of the document. And then the other thing that you can see there is the actual heat map of what the signal strength will look like, taking into account what the walls are made out of. And you know, we've even had times where, you know, we had somebody, gosh, it was practically a castle that they submitted.
Well,
But
this is Jeff Kaplinski's house, just so everybody knows.
So,
yeah, you're missing the spot I live in, which is the little detached garage that didn't make this. Yeah.
you know,
So-
we've got a solution for that too.
Oh, so the next slide here, I wanted to share this. I was excited about this slide because this is, again, one of the reasons why we partnered with Netgear, because this is who they're working with. This is their current manufacturer partners that they have, and it's growing every day.
Mhm.
And this is who they work with. And I think this is saying something about how they work and who they work with and how involved they are in the industry. So I wanted to share this for sure. Now, we'll talk about some of the lines that we currently have. So on the AV switch side, we carry most of them. We carry the 8-port AV line desktop, the 8-port rack mount as well, the 24-port, the SFP Plus, we also carry it. Again, if you're doing multiple switches, and we'll talk about cascading in a few slides, but one of the things that you should do, if you're cascading switches, you should always use SFP Plus with fiber. It's just so much better, especially when they're larger switches like a 24-port. And then the 40 ports, of course, same thing. We have the SFP and the SFP Plus version of that as well. Now,
Yeah, and just to jump in as well, you know, one of the reasons that we have multiple kinds of switches like that is so that you don't always feel like you're just locked into a one and done type solution. You can be more dynamic if you need to be. And for those switches that just have the standard SFP uplinks, the gigabit uplinks, if you're just doing an audio system, you don't always need a ton of uplink. But if you need more power, you know, we try to give you flexibility with both the uplink speed and the power budget so that you've always got the right switch for the right job. And this is something that, you know, when you send off for AV design, they can take that into account. So they're looking at, you know, the switches available and what the demand on the network will be to make sure that you have the right recommendation.
right. And that brings us to, oh, go ahead.
Well, if you could go back just kind of to dumb it down, because we get a lot of questions about, you know, the difference between the RP and the RPX. I mean, you're getting a higher throughput uplink and higher PoE budget on the X series switches. Been
Correct.
a lot of banter back and forth with the dealers as far as what the actual difference was. Just want to throw that in there.
Yeah,
you,
and
Jeff.
some of the reason for that too is, you know, if you have, you know, a 24-port switch and you have maybe 10 sources that you're trying to send around a deployment, each of those sources is probably going to take up that full gigabit connection. So 10 of those, you'll need 10 gig just to make sure that all of those can get off of the switch. So those are some very important factors that the AV design team will also help take into account to ensure that you're getting a solution that will actually go through where you need it to.
Yeah.
Engage was made for the AV market, so, you know, it will automatically discover your AV switches, pull them into the controller, and then allow you to customize. You know, we talked a little bit about some of those templates. Basically, you can add a template across as many AV switches as you need across an entire deployment. So if you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 of these, you know, you just create your, you know, you'll be able to see the different options for the templates. You'll be able to apply it to all of the switches all at the same time and pick all of the ports that you need. So it makes network setup incredibly easy. And it's a free download.
That always helps. All right, so some more SKUs. We have the access points. We have 4 of them, 3 internal, and then the outdoor access point, which I think is important to have. We also have their multi-gig switch, which we reference as the core switch, and you'll see why in a minute. But then we have the rack mount AV series router, which has again SFP plus port on it, so you can get that out to the rest of the SFP plus switches that you have deployed.
Yep.
And with
something
that,
kind of cool on that outdoor access point, that's how we get Jeff the Wi-Fi up in the above the garage apartment that it sounds like he's in. And
no.
just so that
It's
everybody
in the
knows,
garage. It's not above the garage.
Okay. Well, even better. You can almost say you're living in your car at that point, or spice it up a little bit, dress it how you need to. But that access point, I think it's good to know, it'll broadcast out about 600 feet. So if you do need to go out to a pool house or to a garage, and they don't already have fiber lines buried or a way of getting that connection out there, you can just throw one of those, basically on each building, point them at each other, and you can either create a network in between the 2 of those that people can also join. So you can use that to cover, say, the pool area as you go out to the pool house, or you can make it a dedicated connection so that you get better performance between those 2 access points. So, with the Pro Wi-Fi design, it's not just limited to a single building. If you need to go between buildings as well, let us know.
That's awesome. So a couple other things that we do stock here. When you're doing SFP plus, you got to have the ends. So we and the link cable. So we do stock those. We have a couple of smaller switches as well. But what we really want to talk about here is the new addition. So we just expanded the line. We got 5 more SKUs that we brought in. And we'll start with the first one, which is an all-in-one Wi-Fi router. Because every job you guys do, you're not going to always need the large rack mount router. So we want to bring in an all-in-one for the smaller projects, the smaller jobs. Because again, if you don't have this, you're going to have to find it somewhere else. So we just wanted to have a wider portfolio for you guys to be able to do Netgear with. So we have this one. And it's a nice switch. It's a tri-band switch. It does have a 2.5 gig, a multi-gig port on it. So that's going to be important when if you have other multi-gig switches on that particular project. I think this is a good entry level switch.
Yeah, on our if we're comparing, sorry Fred, a lot of these times here I'll compare it to Luxel because that used to be our current offerings. We sold a ton of the 3100 all-in-ones. While it's great, I'm sure everyone on the call here would love to sell and deploy a proper network in every deployment, but more often than not, there's the need, smaller residence, smaller job where you're just needing a router, and the house isn't big enough to do access points. So you're looking for the all-in-one. So this was definitely something I was excited about getting in because it was a category that we couldn't fulfill. That was one hole in our Netgear product offering compared to what we had to Luxel in the years prior.
100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one was a smaller, just a non-managed PoE switch. So an 8-port PoE switch, relatively inexpensive, has a good PoE budget, but just an all-in-one PoE switch that's, these are just, you got to have them. So we expanded. We did have a small a 4-port PoE switch, but now we have an 8-port just to make your jobs more complete. So this is just a common thing you guys will use all day long, I think. And then there's a larger, again, non-managed PoE 24-port switch, just a generic layer 1 switch, because you got to have this too. We'd like AV line switches everywhere, right? Wouldn't we all? But having a switch that you can just, you use when you don't need layer 2 or layer 3 or even that much PoE budget. I think this is going to be helpful to when you're deploying projects and even smaller projects or even larger projects, but there's a bunch of stuff that you're going to connect that isn't AV centric. This is the switch to do that with.
Yeah, we look at these two as utility switches, right?
Yeah.
You know, your common day in, day out, nothing that you need to go any crazy with. Power some cameras, supply PoE. So utility switch. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
That's exactly what there is to say.
Yeah. So then we did add another AV line switch, and basically this is the same style switch as the AV, as the 8-port. We had an 8-port desktop. We had an 8-port rack mount, which is technically 10-port, but 8 was PoE. But they also made an 8-port rack mount that was SFP plus. So we brought that one in too. Even though it's a smaller switch, we wanted to make sure that you guys had the option to use an SFP plus when you wanted and you needed and your design needed it. So we brought that one in for you guys as well. And one more. Last year we upgraded, or Netgear upgraded their access point, and this year they updated another access point. So this one is Wi-Fi 7 supported. It's got tri-band, and it replaces the mid-grade access point that we did have. So this one is the newer version of the middle-tiered access point. So we've got that one as well. So those are the 5 SKUs that are now available on our portal. And I figured this is a good time to talk about the profile. So with our products, you know, we have Dante. We do a lot with them with our IPD products. Now you can configure those in standard unicast mode, but also multicast mode. Well, if you're doing multicast, it requires you to go into the switch or into the network and make the proper settings and configurations. Well, with our profile, you won't have to. You just set the profile to be nice, and then everything will be fine. You can do whatever you want as far as the IPDs are concerned. Set it up to unicast or multicast, and it's already pre-configured for that. Another thing is it improves how we do auto discover, auto configure. So the settings for that are in the profile. And another thing that it does is it'll indicate, basically using our own MAC address, and you could see where a nice device lives with the N, as you see in that image below. So that profile is in testing right now. It'll be out relatively soon. But the nice Wi-Fi profile is available right now. And what that does is when we released the HR40, when we went to Netgear, we wanted to make sure that it was just something we could do to optimize the Wi-Fi to give that remote better life, and there was. So that's available now. If you have a Netgear access point, you can go in there and set the profile to be niceified. So that's available right now.
All right, another one. Any issues with deploying Wi-Fi 6 outdoor and utilizing Wi-Fi 7 inside?
Not a problem at all. Insight acts as the controller for all of the access points, and you are more than welcome to be able to mix and match. And you know, one of the advantages of Wi-Fi 7 is that 6 gig radio. But even though Wi-Fi 6 didn't have the 6 gig until 6E, and the outdoor access point is just regular Wi-Fi 6, you could actually roam from the 6 gig radio down to the 5 gig radio of Wi-Fi 6 and not even notice. And then when you come back in the house, you'll jump back onto the Wi-Fi 7 radio, or the 6 gig radio. So you'll be able to roam around indoors, outdoors, and between radios, no problem.
All right. Another question came in. Any of the APs offer packet filtering for multicast?
So there are multicast capabilities through the access points, and I haven't dealt with too many projects that have had to worry about that personally, but I know I have seen those kinds of questions going through Pro Wi-Fi design. So regardless of what the network needs, just make sure you're reaching out to Pro Wi-Fi design And we can help address any configuration questions, not just where the access points need to be placed to.
All right. We'll do a couple more and then we'll move on. We talked about lifetime warranty. So what happens when a product is EOL?
Yep.
So go ahead.
Oh, yeah, on the 4250s, it's beyond end of life. So basically, even if we don't make it anymore, we still hold on to stock for quite a while. And there's kind of a little secret with a lot of places that offer a lifetime warranty. It either means it's nothing for them to provide a replacement, or they don't have to provide replacements very often because the products don't fail. These are not cheap to replace, so Netgear is more in the category of, well, they don't fail, so it's easy to offer that lifetime warranty. But even if we no longer made the switch and we no longer had that switch, what we would do is replace it with the current model that would be able to fulfill all of the requirements of the switch that you had. And with the success that we've seen in the AV world, once the 4250s are no longer relevant, then we'll move on to a higher model. So, 10, 15 years from now, if you ran into an RMA scenario, you'd just be getting a free switch upgrade if that's what it took.
Cool. Guys, I know there's some more questions that came in. If we don't get them addressed because of sake of time, myself or one of the other RTSs will shoot that answer to you over email.
Want to talk about, I think the Netgear, just networking design in general is a huge thing. And I've been on lots of projects before when one of the things I see is, constant, like, I have, 3 8-port switches instead of one 24-port switch. So planning for growth, I think, is important. I think most people here know that, but I just want to make sure that we had something about that. But also cascading switches. So many times have I seen, going from a 24-port switch in a rack to another 24-port switch in the, the secondary rack, and they're just linked by a piece of copper, even though there's lots of cameras and all sorts of stuff on it. But that 1 gig connection, that copper connection, can run out pretty fast. And you could do multiple lines, or you could do SFP plus. So I think, the cascading part is an important thing. And then, of course, Wi-Fi. So planning the Wi-Fi, and that's where Fred was talking about, having that Wi-Fi design and being able to deploy the Wi-Fi correctly, because that's the first thing that the end users are gonna say. They're gonna notice and say. And when you're doing wire and you're wiring a house, get the better wire. If it's going to be in the walls, it's not going to be that easy to upgrade the wire, but it's easy when you first run it. So those are a couple things when you're designing that I think would go a long way.
When it comes to wire, just remember Cat6A will carry a 10 gig signal all the way the full 300 feet. That is the IEEE standard for that. So if you're doing a new home today, even if they only want gigabit, if you use Cat6A, then you'll be able to ensure that they can go all the way to 10 gig and possibly beyond. Even when Cat5e was introduced, we thought gigabit was the max there. And thanks to multi-gig technology, we can actually bump that up to 2.5 gig, possibly even 5 gig. That's a little less common, but yeah, good wiring can make a big difference for a long time to come. So
I agree with that. So one thing is, I want to share kind of how a typical job, higher end job would kind of look like. You have the cable modem, and you have a router, and then if you have the access points, they're going to feed into that multi-gig switch, which we refer to as the core switch. And you want to get that in as fiber so you don't chew up any ports and you get the better speed. But then out of that switch, you can then feed via fiber any of the other switches you want. This is kind of how we envision an ideal scenario for when you're designing projects. So this is, again, you'll be able to reference this when this goes, when we publish this, but this is kind of how we figured that the most ideal situation would be for these systems.
Yep, and something good to keep in mind with that core switch as well, because it's multi-gig and PoE++, It'll basically handle any access point that you can find out there, and probably will handle it for the foreseeable future. So it's a good way to future-proof the network as well, even if they don't want to put in the bigger access points today.
Right. Yeah. That futures proofing stuff is super important in this industry. So
Yeah, so when you log into a Netgear AV switch, you'll be presented with the option to either log into the AV GUI or the main UI. And if you use Engage, it'll just kind of default to some of the AV features. But the real strength that we've found with this has been in the profiles that have been created. So we've worked with various manufacturers, NICE included there, as we got the kind of the heads up that that's coming. And what we've done is condensed the network configuration down to a template that is easy to apply across all of our switches. It has all of the necessary multicast settings, quality of service, PTP when needed, and all you have to do is select the port and go. So you can literally have these switches configured in seconds. Just why spend more time banging your head against a wall when you can just get it done nice and easy and know that the job is done right.
yeah, quick is definitely important in this industry for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry, before we go on, can you maybe, or Fred too, touch a little bit on the NICE profile, kind of the specifics on that that's coming
Yeah,
relatively
absolutely.
soon?
So, again, with one of the things that we've noticed, like we have Dante, right? And Netgear works with Dante too, and they had a Dante profile. Well, I want to kind of use that profile because it does better with the timing of the packets and things like that. And also, when dealers, and I know it's just a couple of specific dealers that like to use IPD, but in multicast, which is a better way to do it, but it requires you to know how to set up the switch specifically to do that. And it just takes time. So I was like, well, why can't we use what we know and what Netgear has learned is the best way for Dante, which our IPD products use, and we already know what the settings are that we need to run the multicast. So why can't we just combine that into one profile that is a nice profile for all of our product, and it'll work for everything. So that's what we did. We made one.
Mm-hmm.
It has basically the stuff that the Dante profile had, plus the stuff for our multicast settings that are required. But because we have our owned MAC address, the switch can now look at that and say, oh, that is a nice device, a nice control device. So we'll put a little symbol that we recognize what this device is that's connected to us. So it's a nice way to do that. Also looking at ways that we can auto deploy that profile to make it even easier after it goes live. So.
Mm-hmm. You've said it all there.
I tried.
Now, when it comes to IGMP Plus, this kind of exemplifies what Larry was just talking about with, making it easier to configure. What we found is multicast was very complicated to process across multiple switches. So if you have, two switches that both have encoders and decoders or audio systems, just the multicast requests going between those switches can flood any size network and bring it to its knees.
Yep.
And
I've seen it.
There was a large national integrator that we were working with on one of those early projects, and the only way that they had found so far to work around that was layer 3 PIM routing. And this was an integrator that employs a lot of people for large commercial jobs. They only had 3 people nationwide that knew how to do that. And I've been with Netgear now for almost 10 years, and I have never been on an IT call that needed that layer 3 PIM routing. But for you to have to worry about that between 2 8-port switches didn't make any sense. We put our heads together, we spent a lot of time on this, and found out a way to run multicast so that, we literally have scenarios we've deployed that are a 320 by 320 design matrix without any special requirements because it's just using IGMP+. So very effective way to make sure multicast goes where it needs to and never brings your network down.
and that also hinges on our IPD in multicast would do something similar, and video over IP as well. So it's just a much better way to do things, I think.
Mm-hmm. And this just showcases, on the left side, what happens without IGMP plus. All the packets are going everywhere. And then I think if you hit the button again there, Larry, it'll show you with IGMP plus, it simplifies it so that packets only go where they need to. So don't be afraid about multi-gig deployments. Also, two other things you'll run into on the configuration side. Auto trunking is when you have multiple VLANs and they need to talk to each other through the switch. So I think if you fast forward at one, it'll show, two different switches that have multiple profiles configured through multiple VLANs. When you connect up the Netgear AV switches, and this is something only on the AV switches, I should clarify that, it will automatically trunk those VLANs for you so that it eliminates that part of the configuration. You only have to worry about the endpoints, and the switch will take care of the conversation between themselves. And then with auto lag, if you do need to connect multiple connections, then, unless you put those in a link aggregation group, it creates routing loops and can really cause a large problem with the network. But again, between two AV switches, it will automatically put those connections into link aggregation groups and automatically trunk all of those ports. So it just eliminates, busy work, I guess is the right word.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that is all the things that help make these switches easy to deploy, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the goal.
So one other thing is, we are going to have and host some Netgear trainings, one in the PBD office and one in the Carlsbad office, and those dates are below. 5/27 is going to be the PBD one, and 6/3 would be the one in Carlsbad. So we have these will be posted and ready for you guys to sign up by this week, a day or two, up on the nice U portal, and then you could sign up. And then, and that'd be awesome. So just learn more. This is hands-on, so Netgear is going to do it, and they're going to bring gear. So I think it'll be a great way to get in some depth. It's a one-day class.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. And we have 9 minutes left, and we have just enough time to answer some questions.
And there are a bunch of them.
I
So
figured
guys,
it would be.
while we're going through these, if there's some questions you have that you haven't asked yet, click on that Q&A tab up top and go ahead and fire them away. This question is from Brad, probably for Fred here, but he asked, is there a limit of profiles a switch can accept for the various products? And are there custom rules and ports available for port if any profiles conflict?
That is a good question.
That's a good question, yeah.
There are a few technologies that they've found don't always play nicely with each other. And that's one of the reasons it's always a good idea to reach out to the Pro Wi-Fi design team, or Pro AV design team, to make sure that if you do have different types of technologies, you know which templates to use and which ones won't play nicely with each other and which ones will. That way they could help you avoid any potential scenarios where they say, hey, maybe we could do something different, because usually the ones that don't play nicely with each other are multiple different types of audio, for example. So, why I don't, there may be scenarios where you would want to run different audio template, different audio technologies over the same network. Maybe it's to address a wide variety of needs that you're running into in that scenario. But, the design team could let you know, hey, these ones won't work well together. Let's see what we can do to simplify down. And that way you don't have a customer that's making, a large error. Maybe there was some cost savings involved in getting particular hardware, but maybe those cost savings will come back and bite you a little bit more. But in terms of a limit of different number of templates that could be applied, really it would just, the limit would be the number of ports, because you wouldn't need to put multiple templates on the same port So even a 40-port switch would be able to house and hold 40 different VLANs and templates. All of these switches are actually capable of handling thousands of VLANs at a time, so there wouldn't be a worry on the limit of the switch, more just the reasonability of the technology and what would happen there.
Thousands of VLANs at a time. I can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Just one gets me nervous.
Next question up is, do you need WAN access to utilize the Engage configuration utility? And I think that this question is probably because a lot of these dealers are going to be in setting up the local network prior to the ISP coming to the house.
Good question.
So
Engage is strictly local only at the present time. We do hope to bring it to the cloud soon. I don't know exactly what soon means, so I can't make any promises, in this setting here. But Engage, the goal is that as a residential integrator, and this is something that we'll be showing in the trainings that we do in Peabody and Carlsbad, but we will show you how to set up the router and access points through Engage and be able to use that as an all-in-one controller. And for the time being, since that is not cloud-enabled, if you do need cloud management of the devices, right now that would be for the core switch, the access points, and the router, the bigger router, the 10 gig router. Those can be managed through Insight, and the devices that you have will come with time included, so that you don't have to worry about the licensing that Insight does have on the portal. And basically that included licensing time will see us past the date that we'll be getting Engage out to the cloud. And in those trainings, we'll actually be showing Insight as well. So we'll be able to make sure that you're able to use both platforms. And if there's one that you like more, we can always make sure that we help you navigate the world of being able to do that. But if you are in a home and you want to use Insight and they don't have internet yet, one of the really nice things you can do is pre-configure the devices before you go on site. They will have the configuration when you get them all set up, and then once internet is restored, the only thing that you might need to do is make sure all of those devices can reboot. And that would be it. And then they'll be talking on the cloud, and you can address issues remotely. So both platforms have their pros and cons and what they were made for, but just be rest assured that that the long-term plan will be to make sure that Engage can meet all of the needs that you have, either locally or cloud-based.
Well, that was good. Any other questions, Jeff?
Yeah, there's a couple more. And Glenn, sorry I didn't get to this earlier. When we were talking about outdoor Wi-Fi, it's been a couple people asking, and I know that's not a SKU that we're bringing in the portal, but in the Netgear realm of things, do you guys make a wireless bridge, a point-to-point?
So the outdoor access point that we have is currently the only wireless bridge that we have available. There are some things in the works to make sure that we can enhance the portfolio, but for right now, that outdoor access point would be, so it works as an outdoor access point or a point-to-point bridge. And just to make sure that number is there again, the acceptable use really goes out to about 600 feet is about the longest that you really want to go with that. But we hope to increase that distance with products in the future. But again, I don't have a time frame or any specifics I'd be able to talk about here.
Fair enough. A couple more, and since Larry, you like VLANing, I'll throw you under the bus on this one. I'm sure Fred will chime in. Can a switch support multiple profiles? That we do know per switch, but is each of those profiles then assigned a unique VLAN? The second part to that question is then, does Alon have any issues within the Netgear realm communicating across the various VLANs per profile?
So anything with our control system needs to be on the same VLAN. It has to be flat for our control system. That much I know for sure.
But traditionally, I mean, if we're talking about, I think this application here is splitting a switch to do Dante and VIP, where VIP would need to be on its own specific VLAN anyway due to the ACM is acting at that bridge modem. So I think that would correct itself because that ACM talks across VLAN, in turn talks to the switch. So I think the application was there. It was people, traditionally, what we've been doing is telling dealers that they need to do a dedicated switch for VIP. Now with Netgear, you'll have the ability to split off a specific VLAN on that switch, use however many ports and allocate that to VIP, and then use the rest if you need Dante or data or anything like that.
Yeah, if you have a small VIP, you have a big switch, I don't see why you couldn't. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, if you could take 8 ports and make them, VIP, and then make the other ports, nice or whatever you want to, standard. I think that's okay.
Yeah,
Fred
can correct me.
each profile does require a different VLAN because they set different rules for the road that would conflict with each other. And this would be a time where I would want to make sure that we definitely had the design team involved, because one of the things that they would be able to do as well is to see if setting up any static routes between those VLANs or using MDNS on the router would help us to overcome needing to have devices in 2 different VLANs talking to each other.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that was actually a loaded question because that's actually an application I'm doing here at home, sharing a switch with both Video over IP and Dante, which is huge. Just adds value to the Netgear line.
Yeah, I think so too.
Last question we'll get to, we touched on the hands-on trainings that are going to be available on either sides of the country. There's people asking about, is there, a virtual or self-paced learning collateral available from Netgear? And Fred, I don't know if you could take just a couple minutes I know that you guys have a whole slew of self-guided material there that would cover a lot of the things that we talked about. Looks like there's some interest there.
Yeah, definitely. The Netgear Academy would be the first place I would go. And I know that link was given a little bit earlier, but yeah, it's academy.netgear.com, I believe.
Yep.
And we just changed the URL on that, so I'm still getting used to it. But yeah, the Netgear Academy is a great place to go. In addition to that, we do also have webinars that we put out mostly onto our YouTube channel. I think just about all of them make it there, and that's probably the easiest way to find them. So if you go onto YouTube and search for Netgear, you'll see our company page there as well. And there are some other nice little, pun intended, I guess, nice videos that showcase how to set up some of the different aspects of the switches, how to get logged into the GUI. And then the goal is to make sure that the Academy can be a self-sufficient place that anybody could go and get everything that they need.
Again, just want to thank you guys for spending an hour with us today.
And don't be afraid to come to these guys with any questions. They've got some excellent resources with us to make sure that we can get those addressed. And, so go forth and conquer.